All right. So I will go ahead and get started. So hello, everybody. It's just after 1, so welcome to the workshop. My name is Brian Piper. For anybody who doesn't know me, I'm the Director of Content Strategy and Assessment in the Office of Communication. I've been doing search engine optimization, or SEO, since 1996 and originally started as a web developer. I've done this workshop several times around the institution and at various conferences, most recently High Ed Web and EduWeb. And then I'm presenting a session on this at Content Marketing World and the AMA conference later this year. So I originally set up this workshop today in a request from the Simon School. So most of the examples in here will be Simon focused, but I'm glad to help out anyone in the UR community. So if you'd like me to run any of the reports that you see in here for your group, or run another presentation or workshop for anyone who couldn't attend this, just send me an email and I'll get you into the queue. If anyone's interested in getting a copy of the slide deck, shoot me an email and I'll give you the link to download that. So I've got links in the notes field for all the sites and tools that I'll reference within the presentation. And this workshop's going to kind of be in 2 sections. The first section will be around 45 minutes and will include kind of a high-level overview of SEO. And then after that, I'll address any specific questions that anybody has. So feel free to add those into the chat, or you can just unmute yourself and ask them at that point. And once I'm done answering questions for a couple minutes, then I'll jump into the second section, which will kind of dive deeper into the specifics of optimizing some of the Simon content, and it'll be more of a discussion workshop. So you're welcome to jump off at that point, or you're also welcome to sit through that if you think that would be helpful. So let's go ahead and get started. So let's talk about why you should optimize. We're going to start off with that. Hopefully most of you are here realize that it's important to optimize your content. That's why you're here. But this slide will also have some key points on it that might make it helpful if you need to make a case to leadership for resources or time or the importance of optimization. Then we'll talk a little bit about site performance. So there's a lot of factors that go into site performance. A lot of those can be resource dependent, based on whether or not you have developers on staff. A lot of those can get really deep into the weeds. So really with site performance, we just kind of look at, what's the low hanging fruit? What can you attack easily and make improvements on to make, kind of quick, more impactful changes. Then we're going to talk about figuring out what existing content you have that you should optimize. And we're going to look at what new content you should create and how you can figure out what your audience is looking for. Then we'll get into the details of how you actually optimize. We'll talk about a couple of tools that you can use. And if anybody's not, let's see, here we go. All right. I'll go ahead and mute you. All right. Then we'll talk a little bit about more optimization, other optimization considerations, things like influencer marketing, backlinks, social optimization, and what you can do on social to help increase your overall SEO. We'll talk about image optimization. Then we'll get into future-proofing your optimizations. So what's on the landscape moving forward for optimization, because as you know, things are always changing quickly in the tech world, and especially in search engine optimization and ranking, things can change. So we'll talk a little bit about voice search, featured snippets, AI, structured data, and then we'll do a quick little Q&A, and then we'll get right into the Simon workshop area. So moving right into why does SEO matter? So there's about 8 billion people in the world, and more than half of them are on the internet, and even more than those are on mobile devices. So it's a huge audience that we have access to. And most online experiences begin with a search engine. So getting your content listed on the search engine is a great way to drive more organic traffic. Most people don't ever scroll to page 2. Right, that's the best place to get your content lost is on page 2 of your Google searches. And most people know by now to ignore the paid ads. most of Google's organic search result traffic comes in the first page. So about 30% of the traffic goes to the first result, and then it drops down dramatically from there. You can see a little blip around page 2 on desktop where people get to the page 2 and they look at the first couple listings on page 2. But if you're not on the first page of Google, then you're probably not going to get nearly as much traffic as you could if you could increase your content a little bit to get up there. So let's talk about the way that Google presents search results. So whenever you do a search on Google, you put in your keywords. The search engine displays the paid ads first, although now Google is also starting to intersperse paid ads within your organic search results. And sometimes you'll see paid ads at the bottom of your search results. There are also rich snippets or search features that you'll get, and Google pulls content from those dynamically from different sources. So you may have an image from your site that is featured in the featured snippet, the search feature, but you won't necessarily have the text in there. And then Google also feeds up local search based on your, where you are. So it'll give you results that are specific to you. And then you get into the organic search. So the organic results are what we're going to focus on today. So Google has about 200 factors that it uses to determine rankings. It updates its algorithms 20 or 30 times a year, and there's usually 2 or 3 major updates every year. So trying to figure out what the most important factors are is difficult because Google obviously won't release those. A couple of years ago, Scm Rush did a study where they built a bunch of websites and then they tried to see which factors of those websites would influence the rankings the most. And this data is a couple of years old, so it's already out of date, but it does give you a good idea of the sorts of things that the algorithm is looking for. And right near the top is number of people who are visiting your site, direct visits. So that's a great thing because if you can optimize for organic traffic and you can increase your website's visits, then it increases your ranking, which gives you more organic traffic. So it's a nice cycle that you can get into there. A lot of factors on here that you don't have a lot of control over. What we're going to be talking about primarily today is the stuff down here, the keyword factors. So let's talk a little bit about site performance. So there are a few key things on site performance that Google looks at. First off, a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, I think, they did a huge push to make sure that everybody's site was secure. So you needed a SSL certificate on your site. You needed to have a HTTPS, and the Simon site does, so that's great. Your site needs to be mobile friendly. This was a big one last year. If your site didn't perform well on mobile, then it got dinged in your search rankings. So there is a mobile friendly test right within Google that you can do, and it'll tell you very quickly if your site is mobile friendly. And then you can also drill down into that report and you can see specifics about any issues that your site may have. So if there are things that don't load completely on mobile, certain assets that don't get rendered on mobile, it's a great way to go in and look and figure out specifically what those things are so that then you can go back and address those, or at least see if those are critical pieces of information that you need to make sure are visible to your mobile audience. Page speed is an extremely important thing, especially this year. Google is starting to pay much more attention to how fast your site loads on mobile and on desktop. There's a couple of different sites out there that are great free tests to see what is working on your site and what is not. Pingdom is one of my favorites, and it gives you a performance grade on your site. And it gives you a whole bunch of different issues that you can go in and fix. And a lot of these, you look at it, and initially most people's scores are considerably lower than they should be. It doesn't mean that your site isn't loading fast. It just means that there's other things within your code that Google has found that you can optimize. So this is another one of those low-hanging fruit opportunities where you can go in and, pick one every week or every couple of weeks as your time allows, and just go and see if you can do anything to adjust those or to improve those. I know Simon runs on Drupal. Drupal has a couple of plugins that will automate a lot of this process for you. Google Page Speed Insights is another great one. It'll also tell you, how long it takes for your initial content to load before users see things. Sometimes just reorganizing the code on your template will improve your initial page load, your initial page speed. So all of those factors can help boost your rankings. And a lot of people will look at the page speed report and go, oh my God, I got so much work to do. But then if you look at your competition, and that's the great thing about these sites, is you don't have to just use them for your own reporting. You can use them to see how your competition is doing. So you can look at your competition and see what their scores are. So then well, if I can just get up to about a 40, I can, beat out most of my competition. And, you look at even the Harvard Business School is only at a 26. So, everybody has work that they need to do on page speed. Another important thing to look at is your sitemap. So sitemap is just an XML file that sits on your site, and it helps Google figure out which pages exist on your site, which pages you need to go, which pages they need to index. It's also helpful for accessibility. It's a good tool for accessibility use. But the one on the Simon site, I don't know if it's up to date or not. When I started checking some of the individual pages on there, it seemed like some of them were in an older template. So I know there are also plugins within Drupal that will automate the sitemap generation process, so that as you add or remove pages from your site every week or 5 days, I think it is, the plugin will just automatically go create a new sitemap and submit it to Google for you. So it's another automated thing that you can just set up on your site one time and not have to worry about that. Another similar type of thing is a robots file. So this is from the Simon site. So you can see it basically is telling Google, we're allowing your spiders to crawl all of these pages within these particular subdomains, and then we're disallowing you to, crawl these other ones. So that's good because you don't necessarily want Google crawling your dev site or your admin site or any of that stuff. But it's also a good thing to go and check on and make sure that your robot site is up to date. And I know a lot of the CMSs also have plugins that will help with that. So that's just kind of high-level site performance. They're also, as everything in this, it's resource dependent. So if you have a developer on staff, it's a great thing to say, hey, sometime this week, can you take a look at our sitemaps file and make sure it's updated? And if it's not, can you grab us a plugin that will help us with that? So now we'll start looking at what content you should optimize. So what existing content is already on your site that you really need to figure out how to get onto the first page of your search results. So the keys to that, obviously, you need to start with your business strategies. So you need to know what are the pages that are most important to your strategic initiatives. Then you're going to do some keyword research on those terms to make sure that those terms have a high search volume. So we'll get into our keyword research a little bit later, but as you're doing this keyword research, you're going to uncover other phrases, or they're called long tail keywords, which are just multiple word keywords that are sometimes easier to rank for than, if you're just trying to rank for MBA, you're going to have a lot more competition than if you're trying to rank for executive MBA, for example. So you're going to kind of balance out the search volume of a keyword, which is how many people search for that keyword every month, versus the search difficulty, which is how many other sites out there are competing for that keyword. And then you're also going to look at organic performance. So which pages on your site are already getting a lot of organic traffic? Because those pages are ones that are already ranking for keywords. People are already searching for terms, and those pages are coming up. So a lot of times, if you're on the second page or the third page of Google for a particular keyword with a little bit of optimization, then you can push yourself up to the first page and you can dramatically increase your organic traffic. And then looking at what existing content is already on the search site. So there's several tools that we're going to look at. So we talk about Serp Results. So this is search engine results pages. So when you type in a keyword into Google to do a search, it gives you all these results. So that's what a SERP is that page of results. So there's a couple different tools that we're going to talk about, Moz, Ahrefs, and Scm Rush, that will allow you to see what keywords your site is already ranking for. So it makes it easier for you to go in and optimize the right page that's already ahead on the search engines for those particular terms. So let's talk a little bit about how to use Google Analytics to find which pages are already performing well organically, driving a lot of organic traffic. So if you have access to your Google Analytics account, then this is one view that I use a lot, and it'll give you a lot of information about page performance and what's doing well. So if you open up Analytics and you go into Behavior and Site Content and All Pages, it'll show you how all the individual pages on your site are performing. It'll give you a lot of data that will be very helpful to you. Whenever I look in the All Pages view, I usually set it for a year. It depends on what exactly I'm doing, but generally a year is a good time frame to give you a good indicator of overall page performance. So you set your dates for a year, and then if you're looking just at organic traffic, you can add a segment to just look at organic traffic. Right now it's looking at everybody that's coming to your site, whether it's from social or direct, like typing in the URL or navigating from another page. But if you click on the drop down arrow by all users, you can just come down and select organic traffic and then hit apply. And then it'll add in this line of organic traffic underneath the line of all users. So you can see exactly how much of your traffic is coming from search. And then if you want, you can come up here and remove all users, and then you just get organic traffic. So you can see all the pages that are already performing well and how much of your organic traffic is being driven by those pages. So that's a great insight that you can get out of Google Analytics to find out which pages are already ranking on the search engines. So now you need to figure out which keywords those pages are ranking for. There's a couple of different tools that you can use to do that. If you don't want to use a paid tool, one of the ones that I like is Moz.com. So you can create a free account on Moz.com, and I think the free account gives you 10 searches a month, and it will only show you the first page of results. But if you just need to optimize a couple of pages, or you just want to really focus on a particular keyword, this is a great tool to use without having to pay for a service. So if you go to the home page of Moz.com, you log into your account, you can come up to free SEO tools and more SEO tools and Keyword Explorer, and it brings you to this page. Then you can click the drop down and select. So for Simon, we'll select subdomain. You can also do this for a particular page. Like if you notice one page has great organic traffic, you can use exact page and see what particular keywords that page is ranking for. But if we click on, and if you click on root domain for Simon, it's actually going to give you rochester.edu because Simon's a subdomain of that. So we'll click on subdomain, and then we'll type the URL in here and hit analyze. And it'll tell you what all the top ranking keywords are. It'll tell you you're ranking for, you're already within the top 100 positions on 5,300 different keywords. And it'll show you how many you have in the top spot. So lots of good stuff on here. We'll talk a little bit about page authority and domain authority later, because those are big factors in how your site ranks on the search engines. And so then if you click on see all ranking keywords, then it'll give you the list of, well, it'll give you the first page of results of all your ranking keywords with the free account. So most of these are going to be your branded keywords, your keywords that include your business name on there. So then what we want to do is we want to go click on monthly volume. Since we only get, with the free version, we only get the first page of results. We'll click on monthly volume, and then you'll see the keywords with the highest volume on here, so that you can get an idea of where you're going to get kind of the most bang for your buck for optimizing, right? So then you got to start looking back at your strategic initiatives, right? So you're not going to optimize for Google Calendar because that's not one of your strategic priorities. So you start looking down the list of things until you find something like business school. So Simon is currently ranking 43rd on local searches for business school that gets about 3,000 searches a month. So there's a great opportunity to figure out how to go in, and this is for the homepage. So how to go into the homepage and optimize that homepage a little bit, you might be able to boost that ranking up. And if you can get it up on the first page, you're going to drive a lot more organic traffic for that. So Moz is a great tool if you're just looking to do a little bit of optimization. We have a Scm Rush account in our office, and I am always glad to run Scm Rush reports for anybody. Just send me an email, tell me what domain or page you want a report run on, and I'll run the report for you. And so it gives you all of the listings, and it gives you a lot more data points. So if you're running AdWords campaign, it has a whole, cost per click feature in it that you can use. But the same thing, the first result is going to be all sorts of things that you don't necessarily want to rank for. So the first thing that I do after I run one of these reports, or if I ran a report and sent it to you, the first thing you would do is kind of go through that and narrow it down to just the top priorities, the most strategic keywords for you. And then that way you're going to end up with this list of keywords, what position your site is currently ranking for, and how many people are searching for that term every month. So that's a great place to start off to figure out, and then it's also going to tell you which page on your site is ranking for that keyword. So that's a great place to start to figure out what exactly you need to go back and optimize, as far as your existing content in order to help increase your organic traffic. So now let's talk a little bit about what new content you should create. What content could you put up on your website that's going to help drive organic traffic? And the key for this is to write for people, not for search engines. So you want to deliver content that's customer focused, engaging, and informative. So search engine considerations should really only come into play when there's a choice between different phrases, each of which will have the same kind of customer experience. If you're interested, I know Sophia Tokar in our group has a great little course that she gives on how to write for the web, which is just a fantastic exploration of how people use the web, how they read on the web, and how to structure your content so it's more consumable. That being said, if you don't include highly searched keywords and phrases in your content, at least in this point in the search world, the search engines aren't going to associate it with those terms. So search results right now are still very keyword focused. And we'll talk a little bit later about how search engines are starting to get away from that. But at this point, we can still use those keywords to really help optimize our content performance. So the first thing to do is to figure out how your users are searching. So what does your audience need? What sort of questions are they asking? How are they entering those questions into the search engines? So there's a couple different sites that you can use to kind of help spark some ideas so that you can help create that. So whenever I'm doing keyword research, I just start off with an Excel sheet. I do my Moz or my Scm Rush report, and I kind of put all those keywords in there because I already know what the search volumes are for them. And then when I start looking at what new content should be created, I start just putting in phrases that I get from these different sites. So Answer the Public is a great one. There we go. So Answer the Public is a great site. You go in and you put in your keyword phrase like business school, and it'll tell you all the questions that people are asking on Google about business schools. So you can kind of look through here, and it gives you this in different formats. This is just one of the visuals that they present to you. So you can go through here and see which of these questions are most applicable for the type of content that you would be creating on your site. And so then you add that into your spreadsheet. And then later when we get into the keyword research, I'll show you how to figure out what the search volumes are for all of those different phrases. So you can come up with these questions that are applicable to your business, And then you're going to figure out the search volume for those and the search difficulty, how many other people already have that content out there. And then you can figure out if that's good content for you to create from an organic traffic perspective and from, supplying your users with the questions that they're asking. Quora is another great one. I don't know why there we go. So Quora is a discussion site, and Reddit is the same type of user discussion site where you can go in and see exactly what sort of discussions people are having related to your type of content. So you put in business school and you see all the conversations that are going on around business schools. And you look for, different sort of content that has a large number of followers. And those are the types of things that you could, add into your site content that would help drive more users if they found your site on the search engines. Reddit is another great place to do that, right? Lots of good conversations going on in there that can really help push traffic. BuzzSumo is another great site to find what is trending in social. So BuzzSumo is very social focused, but that's also just another great place to go for ideas about types of content to put up on your site. And then Google itself, obviously. So if you go to Google and you start typing in your search term, your keyword term, it'll give you a list of suggestions. And all those suggestions are things that people are searching for. And then once you actually do your search, you'll see these people also ask questions. So this is another one of those rich snippets that Google provides to you. These are common questions that people ask, and then you can just click the down arrow and it'll give you the answer right there. So a lot of times if you can target those types of questions, so you need a short question and then a short, concise answer to that question, and then some longer form content after that. So if you can write that into your content or create your content and then have these questions in there answered, then a lot of times you can get into this people also ask category, and people will see their question, they'll click the down arrow, and then they'll click on your site to get more information about it. And then at the very bottom, once you do a Google search, at the very bottom, you're going to see other searches related to what you just searched on. And that's also another great place to get keyword ideas. So I'll go through that process. I'll get a whole bunch of keyword ideas. I'll add those into my spreadsheet. Google Trends is also another great place to go and do that. You just put in the term that you're interested in Google Trends, and it'll give you all these related queries that you can use. Search Console is a fantastic tool. So you can set this up. This is a free tool you can set up on your site, just like Google Analytics. And it tells you what searches people are putting in the search engine and then finding your site from those. So it'll give you a performance report on the home page that'll show you your traffic from search, on whatever the date range is that you have set up in here. And then if you click on Open Report, it'll give you the specific terms that they are searching and then how many clicks you're getting from those searches within that time period. So I think it's 3 months here. Yeah. So also another great tool to use to see what people are searching for and then coming to your site. And then if you click on pages, it'll show you specifically which pages those queries are directing them to. And then Google Analytics, of course, if you have site search set up in Google Analytics, so if you have a search feature on your site, a search box on your site that is fed from Google, you can go into the admin panel in Google Analytics and turn on site search. And then you can just go drill down and see exactly which terms people are searching on once they get into your site. And so this is not only a great tool for SEO, but this can also be a useful tool for UI and site design, because if people are coming in and constantly searching on something, that might be something that you need to add into your menu, or something that's not obvious that you need a button on your homepage to say, here's our tuition rates or something like that. So these are all great places that you can go to, and you can figure out other keywords that you might want to optimize for, that you might want to create content specifically for, questions that you want to answer for your audience. So now we'll get a little bit into the specifics of keyword research. So you want to find the most searched terms, the terms with the highest search volume. And then you want to find the terms with the lowest search difficulty, so you have the best opportunity to compete with those terms. There's a free tool out there called Ubersuggest. You can just Google Ubersuggest, or you can go to Neil Patel's site. It's on the back end of his site. And you can create a free account on Ubersuggest and just put in your keyword, and it'll tell you exactly what the search volume is and what the SEO difficulty is. So this is a great tool to use when you're starting to do keyword research and you just need to figure out which of these terms are the ones that are going to give you the most opportunity to have organic traffic. And then if you come down and look at other keyword ideas, the tool will give you a whole list of other ideas, and then which sites are already ranking for relative terms for that. So this is an excellent free tool to use. And we also use Scm Rush to do our keyword research. You can also, if you have a Google AdWords account, you can use Google Keywords, Keyword Planner to figure out directly from Google what the search volumes are. And as you use different tools, you're going to notice that different tools will give you different search volumes for the same terms. So SEO is not an exact science, and depending on how different tools pull their data in, you're going to get different results. But generally speaking, if you use one consistent tool, you're going to show that this keyword has more search volume than this keyword. So it may not be exactly 100,000 and maybe 80,000, but it's still going to be enough that it's going to be a considerable indicator of which keywords you should optimize. So now let's talk a little bit about how you actually optimize. So the main things to be aware of are keyword locations. So you want to get your keywords into the right places, and then keyword frequency. So you want to get your keyword in the right places the right number of times. For keyword placement, at the beginning is always better. So if you can put your keyword at the front of your phrase versus the end of your phrase, Google's gonna like it more. So trying to figure out where keywords go. So let's just take an example article that we did. So this was, one of the first places you want to look is in the page title, so the URL. Now, a lot of people don't ever look at the URL when they click on a link. It just appears up there at the top of the page, but Google looks at it. So if you can do keyword research before you create your URL, and you can get your keyword into your URL, that's going to help your SEO. And then also in the headers. So the title of your article, usually your H1 tag is the title or the first big block of text. Great to get your keyword into there. Now, a lot of times our content creators will write very clever titles that are great for, bringing people in, making people click on the link to read more about it in the newsletters, which are great. They're great for that initial push out of the content. Usually after an article has been up for a month or so, I'll go back and I'll tweak it and I'll change the title so it's not quite as clever as what they had originally put in there, but it'll have keywords in there that the page is ranking for. And that's usually one of the best ways to help push the keyword or push the organic traffic up for that page and increase the number of keywords that page is ranking for. I try not to go back and change the URL once it's up there. I usually leave that set from whatever it's set at initially, just because then if you start changing URLs, then you've got to start doing redirects, because if you don't set up a 301 redirect from the old page to go to the new page, then you're not going to get the search positioning passed from the one page to the next. So usually I'll leave the names alone once they're put up there. Copy, you want to keep your keyword in your copy. So ideally trying to put it in the first paragraph or the first sentence is great, but you want to have it in your copy, and then based on the length of your copy, you want to increase the frequency of your keyword. So Google has kind of a magic frequency number that changes every so often, and we'll talk later about a tool that you can use that'll help kind of figure that out for you. Image names and alt tags. So even the name of the image can help, and especially when we start talking about image optimization and image search. So instead of just saying, you know, yes banner.jpg, you want to say, you know, yes banner to get into your dream college, or, you know, yes banner for dream college, or something like that. And you want to use hyphens to separate the words within your image name so that Google recognizes those as individual words and keywords. You also want to try to put captions in your images as much as possible. And then another thing that's very important is alt tags. So everybody knows that alt tags are used for accessibility. So visually impaired people will use screen readers, and the screen reader will read the description of the image to them. So it's important to make sure that your alt tag is representative of what the image is, but it's also great if you can get your keywords into those alt tags as well, because that'll help with your SEO in the image optimization. Any links that you have, if you can put your keywords in the link or in the link destination. So while this link doesn't have Dream College in it, the transcript that it goes to is called getting into your dream college.doc. So it does have it in the same, you know, in the same chunk of code. But, you know, ideally we'd want to say read the get into your dream college transcript. And then also the same with your video podcasts, any links that you have in there, any external media that you have in your content. Great to be able to get your keywords into there as well. And then you can see if you do all of that, then you're going to get on the first page of the results, and, you know, your content's going to perform better and drive more organic traffic. And your images are also going to show up in the image results. And because we had, you know, our image named properly, captioned properly, and a good alt tag, you know, we got the first spot for that. So Yoast is a plugin that you can use with most content management systems. So we use it within WordPress. I know that Drupal has a Yoast plugin. It's a free plugin, and you just install it. And at the bottom of your content, you can just go in and it'll tell you, you put in your keyword that you want to focus on, and it'll tell you exactly what problem areas you have, so that then you can go back and change those. So it'll tell you, you know, the keyword density is too low. So the focus keyword was only found one time. So then you go back up to your content, you figure out where you can put the keyword in there a couple more times. Obviously, you don't want to, you know, keyword spam it. You don't want your copy to be difficult to read because you just force the keyword in there. It has to fit in there organically. But if you put it in there the right number of times, Google's going to like it more. So basically, this is you know, just a simple checklist. You go down, you make the changes in your content, you come back down, you look at it until eventually you turn all of these indicators green, or as many as you can. And then you're going to publish your article, and it's going to do better in search. And you don't have to just focus on one keyword. So a lot of times you'll end up with your keyword list that'll have several different keywords in there that you can optimize for. You want to select the primary one that'll have the highest search volume and the lowest search difficulty. So you'll optimize your content for that, but then you can optimize for one keyword. You can go back here and enter in your second priority keyword and tweak your copy for that as well, obviously without getting rid of the, you know, initial ones that you did for the primary keyword. And then you can publish that. So then you can start ranking for multiple keywords on a single piece of content, which will, you know, exponentially increase your organic traffic. So there's a lot of other things to think about as far as keyword optimization. So influencer marketing and backlinks. So the Simon site has some great articles on its news feature page. Fantastic stories about the school. Anytime you can reach out to someone who wrote a story, published a blog article, has a reference to your page in there, and you can ask them to add a link to your site, The more links you can get back to your site, the more Google likes your site and the higher that it will rank your content, especially from a high domain authority link. So if you can get like New York Times or someone else with a very high domain authority to link back to your site, that's going to help boost your rankings. You also want to look at competition. So like I said, all these tools that we went through, you can see how you rank versus your competition. You can see how many keywords they have versus how many you have. And you can see Scm Rush actually has this competitive analysis keyword gap tool that you can see where your competitors rank that you don't. So that might give you an opportunity to say, oh, they're ranking for this keyword that I also want to compete with them for. So now you can go out and create some custom content and do some keyword research, figure out what people are searching on related to that content, write a blog article or change one of the regular site pages that you have to be optimized for that content, and then you're going to be able to rank better. So meta descriptions are another thing to focus on. So when Google returns its search results, it has the name of your business, school, and then it also has this description underneath it. So a meta description used to play into search optimization, but they took that away once everybody was spamming their meta descriptions with the the keyword terms that they wanted. But it's still important to have your keyword terms in this meta description. And remember that this is what people are going to be reading to decide whether or not they're going to click and visit your page. So it's important to have a call to action on here and to have your keywords in there, especially your strategically relevant keywords in there as early as possible as you can in that content. There's a couple other tools I'll talk about later, but this tool will allow you to look and see while you're browsing your pages. Like this is on the home page of Simon. So the Simon homepage is pulling this meta description from the first chunks of copy on the page, which is the default for that, because there's not a meta description written for that page. And then you can go look at your competitors and you can see that there is a specific meta description written for their pages. And actually, most of the Simon pages do have a specific meta description, but even this one, it's a great description, talks about the individual page. And then at the end, it has a call to action, which is perfect. They could optimize this a little bit more by putting a keyword in here saying, explore our MS in accountancy programs. So trying to get the keyword in there, trying to get that call to action, trying to get the direction in there that this is what you're looking for. This is the information that you're looking for, that you searched for. Come to our page and you're going to get the answers to your question. So now we'll talk a little bit about image optimization. So we talked about naming your image, getting the right alt tag in there, and getting captions in there where possible. So if you just do, some searches on, I just did some competitive searches for, MBA and then whatever the name of the competitive schools were. You can just kind of by looking at the images that are returned, you can see there's a lot of images that have branded, logos on them. It has the school's name on them, right? You see a lot of these have, Kelly Business School everywhere. It's because, not only, and Google's starting to get better about recognizing text within images as well. So it will read the text within these images, which also can help with your rankings. You'll see a lot of that on here because they've got the name and the alt tags for these images, as well as, branding within the images as well. So you can see that they push a lot of their images highly up into the image search. So there's a few places, that we could work on that within some of the Simon imagery. But, the image results on Simon are returning a lot of, see this one right here has executive MBA in the image, which is great. And then I'm sure that the title of that image or the alt tag within that image also help it get pushed to the front of that. And then your social profiles actually rank on Google as well. So if you write your social profiles well, and you include some of your keywords in your social profiles and the description on your social profiles, that can help push those rankings up to the top. So when someone searches Simon Business School, they'll get the website, but then they'll also get all the Facebook, the LinkedIn, the Twitter, so that you're taking over all of those top spots and pushing everybody else out of those top spots who might be, getting in there. And then it's the same thing as the meta description. There's some things that, like Facebook will force certain things, the likes and people talking about will force those into your meta description. But there are things that you can add into your meta description to help push those down. So there's different ways to optimize your social profiles for SEO. And then even your posts themselves, people aren't just searching on Google or YouTube. Those are the two biggest search engines right now. But when people go into Twitter, they're searching hashtags. So the more, even doing hashtag research and figuring out which hashtags relative to your business people are searching, and then starting to use those in your posts can help elevate your posts on BuzzSumo or some of those other sites where they sort things by hashtag. And also putting branded images in your social profiles is also great. So incorporating, your school name, your logos into your profile images are also very helpful. And then business listing. So you want to make sure you claimed your business listing, which you have. But then, adding in all the information that you can in there, and then optimizing your description of your business so that it really addresses what users are looking for. So you can, a great way to look at that is to go look at your competition and see what they have in their descriptions on their business listings. And then also on your business listing, you can add in photos. So adding in branded photos in your business listing is another way, not only to get those photos into the image search, but a lot of times when you do a Google search, you'll get a photo bar that'll have a carousel of all the images. And if you have your images properly tagged, named, and alt tagged, then you're going to get yourself into those image carousels as well. So talk a little bit about some other tools that are very useful. There's some great Chrome extensions out there that can help you during many steps of this process. So Keyword Surfer is one that I love. If you install Keyword Surfer in Chrome, as you're searching in Google, as you're doing your keyword research, it'll give you other keyword ideas. And then one of the other things I love is for every search result, it'll tell you the estimated amount of monthly traffic that page is getting because it's ranking for this keyword. It'll tell you the word count for that page, and then it'll tell you how many times the keyword that is ranking for is on that page. So it's another very helpful tool. Mozbar, I mentioned that earlier. So as you're searching around, as you're looking at your competition site, you're looking for other sites that are currently ranking for a keyword that you want to rank for, you can see what the page authority is for those sites and what the domain authority is for those sites. So there's a lot of different factors that go into giving a site that domain authority or page authority. It's, how long the site's been around, how much content is on the site, how many backlinks are coming to the site. All those sorts of things help increase the page authority and the domain authority. So if you go and are doing keyword research on a particular phrase that you want to target, and you go and you look and you see that, the 4 pages that have, the top 4 rankings have a much higher domain authority than you, maybe you want to look for a longer tail keyword that may be easier for you to optimize, or maybe you want to start looking at, some of the people also ask questions or other featured snippets where you might be able to take those spots and not have to worry about competing with a higher domain authority website. But this is also a great place to go look at, meta descriptions and titles to see, what other sites are doing out there to increase their rankings. And it also gives you a breakdown of, all your header tags, tells you all sorts of great things. So it's a very useful tool as well. And then for YouTube searches, vidIQ is great. They have a paid version, which is somewhat helpful if you need to do a whole bunch of video optimization at once. But the free version really gives you most of the key metrics that you need. It'll give you kind of an indicator of how your SEO for individual videos is functioning. So your video descriptions, your video names even the file name of the video can have an impact on how it ranks relative to other videos. And then it'll tell you based on all the keywords that you tagged the video with where you are ranking, so that then you know, oh, well, here you're ranking for Assignment Business School. That's because it's the title, it's in the description, it's very prominently featured in the video. So vidIQ is a great one for optimizing your video content. Then we'll talk a little bit about future proofing. So what's on the horizon for search? So voice search, they're saying by next year, more than half of internet searches are going to be voice search. So voice search returns one result. So it's important to be, and generally it's the featured snippet or the people also answer for the question that's being asked. So, trying to get up in that top spot or in the featured snippet will oftentimes help you get those voice search spots. There's some debate of the importance of the featured snippets or the voice search, especially in the e-commerce world, because a lot of times people will go and they'll get the answer to the question without having to click through to the site. So now all of a sudden you're giving people your information without them clicking through to your site. So like some e-commerce providers are like, oh, we don't want to rank number 1, we want to rank number 2 or number 3. As far as we're concerned, it's great for brand awareness. It's great to keep our content up at the top. And a lot of times we do end up, we feel we get a lot of traffic. There's no way yet to track clicks you get from your featured snippets, but we feel like we get a lot of traffic because we're ranking at the top for several of those stories, and we do get a lot of traffic organically for those. Rankbrain is Google's AI that they're using. So 2015, they launched Rankbrain, and it was at the bottom of the search result algorithm. So basically what they do with Rankbrain is they look at all sorts of factors. They look at backlinks, content freshness, content length, domain authority, and then they kind of use all that and they figure out how content should rank. And then based on where content ranks, then they look at page views, bounce rates, time on page to see if people are getting the answers to the questions that they want. And if they are, then they kind of reinforce that, oh, backlinks are important because people are staying on the page longer and they're coming to visit this page more often, and they're not bouncing off this page as soon as they come in. So Rankbrain has continuously been learning for the last 5 years, and it's also been moving up in Google's algorithm as far as the importance of it. And I'm sure within the next couple of years, Rankbrain will be doing the majority of the ranking within Google. And one of the things that Rankbrain does is latent semantic indexing. So it's concept ranking. So keywords are going to become less important as Google kind of looks and sees what people are putting into the search engine, and then it figures out based on what people are going to visit and what sites people are finding the answers they want based on those keyword searches, that is going to say, well, this is the concept they're searching for. I don't need that specific keyword because that's not really what they're searching for. They're searching for this concept. So latent semantic indexing is becoming more important, which means keywords are going to become less important specifically, which makes it even more important to start doing more keyword optimizing now while we can still use that to drive more traffic. And then structured data and schema.org. This gives richer results. It makes your meta descriptions return better detail. It's code that goes on the back end. It's used primarily for like recipe sites and e-commerce sites now, but it helps with click-through rates and search rankings. And they've got schema.org conventions set up for like course listing, faculty research, that sort of thing. So it's something that is eventually going to get more and more integrated into our world. So and that kind of wraps up the first section of the presentation. So if anybody has any questions, I'm glad to answer those individually now before we start getting directly into the more Simon focused part of things. And I don't know if there's, I don't see if there's a chat. Oh, here, let me stop sharing for a minute. There we go. Now I can see if there's any. So if anyone has any questions they want to throw in the chat, or if you just want to unmute yourself and ask a question, feel free. Give you a minute or so on that, and then we'll jump into the Simon specific portion of this.
Brian, I've been monitoring the chat and nothing has come through so far.
Okay. Well, like I said, I'm always glad to.
Oh, we have one.
All right, acronyms with multiple association. Yeah, that's a tricky one. And another thing that that also muddies the water is a lot of times people will show up, your site will show up as ranking for several like names, which will be names of actors, which is also happens to be the name of one of your faculty members. And you know, your site will rank for the actor. So you don't really want to optimize for those. And it's the same word with, it's the same thing with multiple associations with acronyms. So if you have, so that's something that you can do keyword research on. You can find out what the search volume is for those acronyms. And then you can spell out the entire acronym and see if the search results are much higher for the full name of the other acronym versus the name of the acronym that you want to rank for. And if that's the case, a lot of times it's not worth optimizing for that particular acronym. It's better to find a longer tail keyword that either incorporates that acronym to help specify it, or the actual full spelled out name, even though a lot of times that's not something that people will search for. Sometimes if people are searching for that particular acronym and they know they're trying to find you, then, you know, even having the longer tail keyword in that will also include the acronym, but usually they'll, you know, like WWF, World Wildlife Federation versus World Wrestling Federation. So if you put in WWF Wildlife and make that your keyword that you optimize for versus, you know, WWF Wrestling, which I think they've changed that now anyway, but, you know, that's one way to kind of to get around that. So, and the same with highly specialized scientific terms. You can still optimize content for that. So you still do your same, you know, optimization process. It's just that you're not going to drive a lot of organic traffic because there's just not a lot of people searching for that. If it's a you know, fairly niche term that you don't have a lot of traffic for, you're not going to drive a lot of traffic to your page for that, but you can still get your page ranking high for that term. So if people do search for that term, they will find you. All right. So if there's not other questions, we're going to go ahead and jump into some of the more Simon specific stuff. So this is going to be a little bit more of a conversation, Yael, with you and your team. Let me go ahead and share what I've got here. So we're going to start off talking a little bit about kind of a competitive keyword gap. You sent me some of your competitors. So we'll look at what keywords they're ranking for that you're not ranking for. We'll see if we can identify some places that you may want to, you know, optimize. We'll also look at your current high performing pages and keywords, figure out which terms are most relevant to you, which ones you want to focus on. And then we can look at some optimization recommendations from Scm Rush just based on a few pages that I picked initially. So let's start with.
Let's also, since it's the Simon team, we can, if, and this is supposed to be a sort of a conversation, if we can turn our videos on.
You better feel free to jump in and you know, with any questions or clarifications at any point as well.
Brian, thanks so much for doing this, by the way.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. I love talking about this stuff. So, It's always good to have
So not to, I'm just trying to see, is it only Simon people on now? Okay. Okay, good. I just wanted to see if, just to make sure that the audience was right here.
Yep. So this, everybody can see my screen here?
Yep.
So this report from Scm Rush is a gap analysis, so I can just go ahead and take this out. So basically, this is where the 4 competitive sites that you gave me are ranking for keywords that you're not ranking for. So this will give you opportunities to see what other terms you might want to start targeting, what other keywords you may want to try to integrate into your content, so you can start ranking for these. And there's none that are like consistent across the board where everyone is ranking well for a particular term. Like behavioral accounting PhD is one that probably is one of the more consistent across all of your competitors. So if this is something that you offer that you're directly competing with their program on, the more you can do to optimize your search results so that you come up higher, the better. And I sent you these reports, Yael, and I'm glad to send these to the rest of the team, or you can share them with the rest of the team so that you can kind of look through these and get an idea of, what other terms you may want to include in your strategy. So this is a good kind of list to look through and figure out which keywords you may, be most interested. Some of these, like, Palms Conference 2014 certainly isn't worth, trying to rank for because it's old and not relevant. But MBA in management salary, I don't know. So these just kind of depend on, which courses you offer, which are most impactful for you. This report is the your positions ranking report. So this currently, and I narrowed this down from the 5,300 returns that it initially gave me. I narrowed it down, I think now to 56 that seemed the most relevant to your content. So this is the next list to look through and figure out, operations management gets 27,000 searches a month. You're currently ranking 92 on this page. So without a lot of optimization effort, you could probably push that page up into, the first page of results, if that's a program that you're looking to optimize for. So all of these keywords are kind of indicators of low-hanging fruit, where it's going to be the easiest to optimize your content for, your existing content for. Well, this one is existing content. This one is competitive content. And then this one is, so these are just keywords that I went through and pulled from your site. I did what people are searching for. I kind of went through some of those steps and tools that I talked about, as far as, what is MBA gets, 12,000 searches a month and has a fairly high keyword difficulty, but certainly not, unobtainable to beat out the, to at least get into the first page of Google results. So this would be more on, new content, as well as the competitive result is more focused on kind of new content ideas. And then, this one is really focused on existing content and where you would get kind of the most bang for your buck. So these are things that your team can kind of look through and figure out. And I'm always available if you come back and you decide after looking at these for a week or so that we really want to target MBA scholarships or something, and we want to optimize this page to really include that. Or if there's one that you can look at and know right now that you want to optimize, we can jump in. And And sometimes we do it different ways. Sometimes people will give me access to their CMS and I'll go in and make the changes depending on how much time I have and what my schedule is and how quickly they want to optimize their content. Sometimes I'll just give them recommendations on particular pages. And let me show you what Scm Rush has here. So if I go, so this is Scm Rush. We've got our, I've already got a project set up for Simon in here, and there's all sorts of things that we can do and track in here with the paid version. But if we look at so I just put these pages in and put in the keywords, and basically Scm Rush says, you know, here's 8 different ideas to improve your ranking on your full-time MS and accountancy that gets, you know, almost 10,000 searches a month. So then you can come in here. So adding your keywords in your meta description is helpful. So compared to your competition, and some of these, you know, it'll break it down. Some of it's more useful than others, as with any automated tools. But you know, the key tool that I really like using is Yoast. And did you say you do have that set up in Drupal? Does anybody know if Yoast
Yes,
is...
we currently have it set up, but we haven't really been utilizing it with the whole chaos, you know, trying to get the site migrated over to Drupal.
Right.
It's in there, but yeah, we don't really use it yet. Wayne, maybe you can speak more to that.
No, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. We would love to, and I think now that it is set up, we can start to, especially with all that you've mentioned with this. But yeah, I don't think we utilize it nearly enough as we should.
Yep, and so a lot of times what I did with our content team is I kind of gave them this same sort of SEO overview. And then we did a different workshop where we identified like several pages that we wanted to focus on. They did the keyword research so that they knew which keywords they wanted to optimize those pages for. And then it was maybe 20 minutes of walking them through, you know, here's how you do it in Yoast and here's how you use it. And so much of that is, you know, content specific to your strategies that I don't understand, because I don't understand your business and your initiatives and everything. That it's really more important that your writers go in to massage the content. But things like, you know, adding the alt tags in there, those are things that have to be done within the Drupal environment. So, you know, I've done consulting with other places where they just kind of give me free reign and say, all right, go into our CMS and make all the changes that we need to make. And sometimes I supply like an Excel file that says, you know, on this page, add, you know, change this piece of copy to include the keyword here and here and here, and change the alt tag to be this. And then they go in and they approve those one at a time, or they go in and make whatever changes that they feel are, you know, most applicable to them. And then, you know, sometimes they just, you know, we'll do a little bit of Drupal training, a little bit of keyword training, and then they just kind of go and do it on their own. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll set up like in Scm Rush, I can set up reports that will look at specific keywords, and then I can set these to send to you on a monthly basis. So once I set them up once, they just, you know, come to you every month, and so that you can see. And I think I had set these up maybe a year ago, so these probably aren't accurate anymore. But you can see where you're currently ranking for, you know, different keywords, and you can see, you know, based on your rankings from a week ago and your rankings now, sometimes there's a lot of variation in, you know, how your site may rank from, even from day to day, it changes. It can change dramatically. But you know, this is the sort of thing I could set up a report for you so that you can track your keyword rankings, and then you can look at Google Analytics to see how it's affecting your organic traffic. I started doing this for the news center when I first got here 3 years ago, and within the first year, our organic traffic was up 60%. So it's, you know, it's pretty easy to improve your organic traffic and to get more people and to increase your rankings, especially at the beginning. I think last year we had a 25% increase, because once you start optimizing, then it's like smaller increments. But the first year is usually, you know, the biggest kind of impact on your content. So I'm glad to, you know, answer any questions, go into any specifics. Glad to show you anything else from, you know, Scm Rush or you know, any of the reports to make it clearer to you. When I did so Scm Rush also lets us set up these keywords. So I just enter in all the different keywords that I thought might be relevant to you. And then you can see the search volumes for all of those. And it also gives you, like when I go in and say, you know, business school, it'll give me, oh, wait, no, there we go. Videos. So you enter it into the keyword business or the keyword magic tool, and it'll give you all sorts of related searches with their search volumes. So, you know, a lot of times if someone, like I did some work with the LLE and, you know, was able to fairly quickly come in and figure out what laser related searches people were, you know, searching for. So instead of them having to go into Moz and try to figure out, you know, for a large picture of their entire website, when they have limited, you know, results from the free version, they just send me something. And the Med Center does it to me all the time. They're like, hey, we're doing a new LVAD article. Can you do some keyword research about it? So, you know, I'm glad to help out and use the tools that we have that do it a little easier than some of the free tools that are out there. Ubersuggest is a great tool, but you know, it also gives limited results, and it's a more, you know, kind of one by one process. So if you're, you know, optimizing for one article, sometimes it's easier to use Ubersuggest, but if you're optimizing for an entire subdomain, then, you know, Scm Rush is much faster for that. So,
Brian, can you, I'm sorry if I'm a little slow, but can you explain Yoast again?
You bet. And so it might be easier if I just go into here. Let me do this. Let me open my VPN real quick, and I'll jump into our WordPress Yoast, which will basically function the same as I've used it in Drupal when I was at Harris, and it's basically the same functionality. So So let's just look at some of our recent posts. So let's see. All right, here we go. Let's go with this one. So, so this is a new article that just came out. So we'll see how many people are searching for white dwarf stars. So I could go into Yoast or into Ubersuggest and search for this also, but I'm just going to do it in Scm Rush. So 3,600 people a month searching for white dwarf stars. So that's great. So let's optimize for that. So underneath all of your regular CMS content, down at the bottom, you're going to have your Yoast SEO content. So I'm just going to come down here and put White Dwarf Star. And so then it's just going to tell me SEO analysis. It's got some reds.
Okay.
So now I can just say, oh, doesn't appear in the first paragraph. So then I go back up to the story and say, how can I? Well, and it thinks this is the first paragraph, even though it's a header. Oh, it's not set up as a header. So that's another thing that you may want to switch. So works may offer for creating new materials on Earth using information based on white dwarf stars, or figure out how to work white dwarf star into that. Sometimes, like in this situation, I'd go back to the content creator and say, is there a way we can massage that first line to include the term white dwarf star? Sometimes it just doesn't work. So, sometimes you can't get it in there. So if you can't get it in there, you just go down to the next one. So the focus key phrase was found 2 times, and you only need it in there 3 times to hit your keyword density. So I would just come in here and look through this article and figure out where I can get white dwarf star into this article one more time, which I'm sure would be fairly easy to do. So you just go down like that, one after another. So meta description has been specified but doesn't contain the phrase. So actually in Yoast, I'm not sure if it's the same in Drupal, but in WordPress, you can just click on this edit snippet and you can just, because it's stars versus star. So Google will know that white dwarf stars is the same as white dwarf star. So I don't even need to fix that because it is actually in the meta description. Yoast just doesn't know that. So use key phrase or synonyms in your higher level subheadings. So the more places you can work that into the subheadings, the better. And then another thing I also do is I'll come into the image and I'll look at the image and see what, what the alt tag is in the image of exoplanetary system with white dwarf star. Bam. So doesn't change the meaning of the image. It works fine on screen readers, but now white dwarf star is also in the image. And actually, a lot of times I'll work with, so this is the, oh no, that's the URL. So I'd have to check on the image to see if the actual image name includes white dwarf star, which I'm sure it doesn't. Some of our writers are better about keyword optimization than others. So I can always tell when I come in, who wrote the story because they didn't do any optimization. There's no keyword identified in the Yoast tool. But it's easy enough for me to come in and optimize that. And on a story like this, I would just come in and do more than just arbitrarily pick, the first keyword that seemed obvious to me. I'd look and see what the story is really about and what people might be searching on to find that story more. But one of the first stories I did when I got here was why did the U.S. enter World War I? Because that story really seemed to hit a lot of the kind of search indicators. There were a lot of people searching for it. It was our target audience because it was high school students who were doing reports that were trying to figure that out. So if we look at, usually if I can just search over the course of a couple of months and we look at our highest performing stories, there it is, number 2. So U.S. enter World War I, and just within the last 3 months, we've gotten 10,000 visits to that page. And if you look at, how the visitors came, it's almost all organic traffic. So it's people finding that, searching for that, and coming to that page because of that. So then at the bottom of that story, we put in a link that says, if you're interested in learning more about studying at University of Rochester, click here to go to the admissions page. So now we're driving traffic to the emissions page from that call to action because we got a lot of organic traffic going to that page. So does that help with the Yoast functionality a little bit? Okay.
It does. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Brian, going back to the image optimization, would there be a way to see some underutilized images that maybe just have like one word file names so that we could go back and then optimize them later?
So Drupal may be able to do that in the, like, trying to remember back. I think there's a way to look at just files within Drupal.
Yeah, there is next to content, but
Okay.
we have so many files that
Right.
Yeah.
And so that may be something that you can, look within Drupal, figure out a way to export that files list, and then, scrub that down so it's just JPEGs, and then sort it by file name, or file length or something like that. So that may be, a workaround. There's no way that I know of within any of the tools that I use that really would help with that process. Usually when I'm doing page optimization, I'll look at the images on the specific page that I'm trying to optimize and then change the alt tags. It's more impactful usually to change the alt tag to include your keyword. But if you find that you're like pushing up between position like 9 and 12 and you're jumping on and off that first page of Google results, sometimes just changing the name of that image in your image file will actually be enough to push you up, to keep you up in like 7 to 10 so that you're on that first page.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you bet. And I'm glad to answer any other questions that anybody has or clarify anything. If there's no like pressing issues right now, I'm always a resource. I'm glad to always answer emails, or if you want to schedule a follow-up, if you want to take some of this and try to put it into practice for a week. If you hit any roadblocks, I'm glad to schedule another session or work one-on-one, or however we can help. The more, it's great because all these people in the institution that have subdomains, the more that our subdomains improve their rankings, it helps everybody because they're all still underneath the same root domains.
Yeah, Brian, this was super helpful. Thank you so much for taking the time to walk us through this. I definitely think we have a lot of action items on our end that we can kind of low-hanging fruit that we can start to pick away at. And personally, I would love to take you up on your offer maybe in 2 to 3 weeks. Let us kind of look at those documents that you'll send, or Yael will forward, either way.
I forwarded, yep.
Okay, thank you. And then we can try to get a plan of action based on our goals and strategies, and then maybe put down a few recommendations and run those by you and see if it's kind of jiving with your expertise.
Perfect. Sounds great.
Yeah, amen. And especially if we can start to make some like benchmarks. If we know that we implemented something here, how much did it affect SEO or optimization or performance? That'd be really, really great to see and be able to actually track.
Right, and let me show you one of the other things that I do within Google Analytics. Every time I optimize a page, if I can remember which, every time I optimize a page, I just create an annotation in Google Analytics so that I know.
That's exactly what we need.
Yeah, so you just know, okay, I optimized here, this page for this keyword. And then that way you can go back and look right in your chart and see if you start seeing a organic traffic improvement.
How did you actually put it in there?
So underneath any chart like this in the behavior, you can just click this little drop down arrow and there's create new annotation. And you just type it in, either make it shared or private for everyone who has access to that account. And you can put whatever date you want in there. Yeah, super helpful.
Yeah, especially for those slave forms, Alex, we should do that so that we remember this is when we change, this is when we went live with Slate. This is when we got the tracking done for Slate. That'd be hugely important.
Brian, sorry,
Yeah.
was somebody going to ask a question?
No, I think it was just me talking.
Oh, so Brian, can you, I think you had mentioned earlier when you and I were talking a couple of weeks ago, you mentioned that somebody does like a seminar on writing for the web.
Yeah, Sophia Tokar, she was in this session. I can send you her email, but she and I have co-presented together where I talk about SEO and she talks about writing for people. But yeah, her session's very helpful and she has a lot of insights and she does a lot of the social posting. So she has some great insights on, selecting images and writing social posts as well.
Would that, and I'm just going to ask my team and colleagues here, would that be of interest to you as well for maybe not next week, but in a few weeks to have?
Yeah, I'd be more interested in seeing the creating content for people sort of fork of this discussion. Yeah. And
yeah, I would listen into that too.
It's always valuable.
Yeah, this has been really helpful. That would also be interesting for sure.
Okay. Sounds like there's quite a bit of interest here. So I will, Brian, will you be, thank you. Thank you.
Of course. I just sent you her email, so yes, and she's always willing to help out.
Brian,
so, yeah.
You are amazing. I really appreciate it. I think that everybody is wiser now as it comes to when it comes to SEO and all things reporting and stuff. So really, this has been fantastic.
Well, always glad to share information, and I love talking SEO. So it's always great when there are people to talk to. Because when I talk to myself in my room, everyone just thinks I'm strange. So.
No, I think we're all SEO geeks at heart. Yeah.
I have one quick question for you, Brian.
Yeah.
So I know you talked a lot about images and naming images and adding captions. Does it matter with the videos we have on our site? Does it matter what we name the video files or adding any descriptions or captions to them too? Or can we just do whatever with videos?
Yeah, so embedded videos on the site Google doesn't usually give as much relevance to those. Most of the videos that Google will serve up as, when you do a search and you get the video results at the top, most of those are pulled from YouTube. So one of the things we've been doing in our stories is putting our videos up on YouTube and embedding those in our pages. And so then we optimize the YouTube video files. So we'll optimize the name of the file name and then the actual name of the video and then the description. A lot of times we'll take the optimized story from the news center and put that in, or at least a portion of that in as the video description, because it's already got all the optimization and the keywords. And since it's outside of Google, they don't see it as duplicate content. So that's kind of helpful. Sometimes we'll cut it down so it's only, a couple of paragraphs, but YouTube also likes long form content in their descriptions. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's also, I do another session at conferences a lot about using data to optimize your content strategy. So that gets more deeper into like Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager and, different ways to set up goals and conversions and stuff. So I'm always glad to do that presentation as well if there's people interested. So.
Yeah, I think we would especially be interested in that since we just went live with our Slate forms. We're looking to see if we can start to track, different goals of being able to have people submit forms throughout the site and maybe, put dollar amounts to specific ones on specific pages. So that would be hugely helpful.
Cool. Yeah, Laura Barr at the web services also works with us. She does all the AS&E, Google Tag Manager stuff. So she and I a lot of times will tag team those presentations. So be glad to share that information.
When is your next one?
We don't have one set up, so I can reach out to her and find out when's a good time to schedule that, and we'll work with you guys to get that in your list.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Thank you.
You bet.
What else do you have, Brian? Keep it going.
Actually,
Seriously.
this morning Amy was talking about my boss was talking about setting up kind of, well, virtual lunch and learn, since we can't actually feed anybody now. But we used to do these, like when I first started, the first year I was here, I think we did a handful of these, because we've got other people who present, like Jeanette Colby does all of the local list, which is the event calendar. So she does a big thing on that. So, and that's been a huge success for us. We're driving a lot more traffic to events and, you know, activities, and there's a lot more people using that event system. So I'll let you know if she comes up with, you know, any other topics that we're sharing. And I'm sure you guys have stuff also that you know better than anybody else. And, you know, we're always looking for ways to do professional development within the university, since we're not doing as much outside the university right now with budgets and travel and everything. So.
Yeah, sorry, didn't mean to bring this to sort of start this cascade, Brian.
It's all good.
Yeah, but this was great. All right, so Brian, can we work on finding another date in a few weeks to just follow up?
You bet, absolutely.
Okay,
And
so
we'll talk actually about the tag manager. Okay.
yeah, maybe like, I don't know, the second or third week of September. Does that work for you?
Yep.
Simon, team?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, Brian, so I'll look at your calendar.
Okay. It should be pretty up to date. So.
Okay, thank you.
If you want to send me that recording, I can send it out to the folks that weren't able to attend that were interested. So.
You bet. Yes, actually, I have to figure out. Oh, it says stop recording. Okay, yeah.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, Brian.